So now you're going to see one of my favourite cards to go out and perform with, just because of the fun that you get from this. This is the Blurred or Frozen King Changeling card. And this thing is so much fun, and I'll tell you why. Especially if you guys are going out and work in bars or parties or weddings, this is just so much fun. I use it in a pseudo-hypnotism sense. So what I do is I'd show people a king of spades, and I'd say, we're going to use this card. Just think about it, it doesn't matter what card it is. But in a moment when I tap you on the head, you're going to feel like you're drunk and you almost can't even focus on this king. So I'll tap them on the head, so I'll show them the king, I'll drop my hand to my side, and I'll go, just think about it, imagine being drunk, imagine having drinks, imagine being wobbly and falling over and not being able to focus. And I go, bing, and I tap them on the side of the head. And when I come back up, everyone else isn't looking, I'll use my audience management to get them to stand away from me. But I'll show them this king and I'll say, look, you can see everything in focus, you can see my hands in focus, but you almost can't focus on this card. And I'll just be tilting it into and out of vision. Now what's beautiful about this is that it doesn't matter if it's activated on or off, it doesn't matter which way you hold it. You can be it doesn't matter if this is perfect or straight, it doesn't matter whatsoever, because I'm just rocking it into and out of view and it tilts into and out of focus consistently. And they're like, these people are like, and you'll see it, you can really play on it, especially if you do any pseudo mentalism or pseudo hypnosis anyway. You'll see that you can really exaggerate this and link it into a lot of routines when you go out and perform. So this person's there and they're thinking, okay, I feel, and you tell them, tell me how you feel, could you focus on this card? Get them to agree with you. Do you feel like you can't focus? Does this feel like your brain's been affected? Do you feel even more drunk? Be bold and ask them questions that they wouldn't say yes to, but then because they're confirming it with their eyes, they have to. So if you say to them, honestly, do you feel more drunk now that I've tapped you on the eyes? And because they're seeing this, they'll say yes, and it's really, really fun. And the method, what I'm doing is just I have a normal king on the face of the deck, and this blurred king on top. So when I show them this card, I say you're going to be looking at this in a moment, and you're not going to be able to focus on this. Everything else will be fine, but not this. You'll feel drunk when you look at this card. I drop my hand to my side, and as I do that, I just flip the deck over, like this. It's a bit hard to do standing up straight, but so I'm showing them this card. I tap them, I could bring my hand down, say on 3, I want you to imagine I build it up for a bit of time misdirection, and I'm just turning this deck over in my hand. But when it's by your side, it's easier because gravity helps. And then when I come back up, I'm showing them this king, because I go, bing. So at this point, when I tap them, that's when they believe the effect started. So then when I come up, it doesn't matter if it's blurred or clear, but I just start to rock it back and forth in front of them, and they can see it starting to actually change and blur up and become weird. And you say, look, you can focus on everything else around it except the card. And then when I tap them on the side of the head again, I just go, bing. I drop my hand, I flip the deck over one more time, and I just bring it up into view and I hand them the king. And if they want, they can keep that king if you have spares. But it's a really, really fun effect. And it's a really good way to introduce yourself into performing with these cards. Because if you are nervous of some of the other ones in the volume, then this is the perfect one to use and play with, have fun with, present it in a completely different manner from a colour change, and realise that people are not going to catch you with these. So I highly recommend just using this if you are unsure about using them. Go out and practice with this, play around with this card, and you'll see very quickly that you won't get caught with it. Another way of handling it is to do it as a frozen or blurred king effect directly. So let's take a look at that. So the other way to present this king card is to show it as a normal card, and you're either going to freeze it or you're going to just make it blur for them. The way I present it is to have it on the bottom of the deck, and if you want you can turn one face down so you can spread it across. Have it on the bottom of the deck and I talk to them and I get their attention up top as I just turn the deck over or flip it over, right? But they don't see that happen. You can even do it under the cover of a shake as you go to change it. But what I do is I just have the deck here, and as I talk to them I say, have you ever felt drunk, or have you ever seen those things where men can use superhuman powers and they can freeze things? Whatever pattern you want to use it in conjunction with this effect. But the main core aspects of what are happening with the method is this, that they see the normal king, like this, so they see the normal king. I talk to them for a second, or if they are really burning your hands and they will not look away, as I go to do the change, I just flip it over by doing a T.G. Murphy deck flip. But whatever way you want, just flip the deck over so you have this blurred changeling card on top. And now I know that if I angle it upwards at a 45-degree angle, so like at this angle towards their eyes, then the card will be pretty clear. Then all I need to do is slowly, I don't do it suddenly because it'll tip the method or tip towards the method, but slowly I tilt my hand so that it's almost flat and parallel with the ground. So I go from rocking forward to going backwards. Now you can use your hand to make this happen, and it looks really good. It really looks like it blurs and freezes up. And you can use your fingers to make a gesture as if you're pulling that away. And then at this point you can ask them to hold their hand out and cover the deck. As you do this, you flip it over and hand them the card. So that's the basic principle behind it. It's really, really simple. There's not really much to it other than getting the deck flipped over. Like at speed, if you were completely burning my hand, this is how I would perform it. I'd say, if you've seen those people that say they can, make their bodies become magnets or, become cold and resist the cold and freeze things, I like to do it with playing cards just to be safe instead of hurting my body. What I want you to do is actually touch your hand on top of mine to warm it up. Okay, now look, I'm going to use that heat from exothermic energy into endothermic energy and make it freeze this card. You'll see it actually freeze up, it looks frozen. But it only lasts for a moment because you can make that card restore back to full health. Actually hold your hand out, you can check this out. Look, if I put this card on your hand, you can see that it's normal, there's nothing wrong with it, it's not even that cold anymore. And that's another way to present the Blurred King. So thank you for purchasing the Changeling. I hope you have fun with this Blurred King effect card. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through the Illusionist forums, through my Facebook page, or through my Instagram or Twitter. If you have any concerns, get in touch and I'm sure we can find a way to help you with it. So thank you very much. My name is Lloyd Barnes. See you soon. Welcome to the introduction for the Change in Coin effect from the Changeling Volume 1. When I first discovered that you could use this principle on 3D objects like coins and other things, my mind was running wild with ideas, and I think this is a really, really exciting concept. Now there are a few issues, I wouldn't say issues, but there's a few things you need to know and be aware of before running out and perform this straight away. But without any further ado, let's get straight in and take a look at the changing coin. So when you get your Changeling Volume 1 set through, you'll get a card with 2 coins on white printed onto the back of it. And what you're going to do is take a scissors and very carefully you're going to cut the shape of this coin out from the card and get rid of the card. So you're left with what looks like a coin that when you tilt it back and forth using this technology, it changes from copper to silver, which is really interesting. You also get a heads and tails version of the coin on the same card. So this is how you present a copper silver card. Also what you need to do, is to, once you've cut it out, go around the edges and try and trim any protruding edges that don't go or fit perfectly, so you're left with a perfectly round coin, okay? Just like this. So the way I like to perform this is to take a real coin, and these are Liberty coins on this card, but people don't really pay attention to the make of the coin, just the color. So I grab any coin, so I'm not limited, and I hold it behind the color changing coin, okay? And this gives it a nice 3D edge when it's one color, as you can see. So if people are looking from the sides, they can still see that it's apparently a coin. And the most basic way to perform this is that I hold the coin and the card, or the changeling coin together. I hold these at my fingertips, and I bring my hand around into a spellbound shape. And what I do is I place the coin on here, the copper side. Now, you need to practice in a mirror to get used to your angles, because at head height, people are going to see things from different perspectives. What you should be left with when you place it into the right position is you come over, place it into a spellbound position, and it should be facing copper. So you show them this copper coin. What I do is I give it a shake, and I get it to change silver, and I hand it out with in the same way like this. And all I'm doing is, as I take it, is I'm pulling back on the changeling gimmick, handing them the coin. So at speed, it would look like this. Watch this copper coin change to silver. You can check it out yourself. So one more time, place it in the hand, have it change colour from one to another, even back again, and you hand it out like this. Now what's really nice about this coin is that if it catches the light, it shines. The light will glare off the sort of plastic layer on top of this changeling gimmick, which is great because it reflects just like a normal coin would, so it enhances the illusion that it's real even more. Another way I like to present this is instead of doing a visual change from one colour to another, is to bring my hand up and try and change it like this. And that way, people who think anything's going on with special changing cards or anything are distracted by sleight-of-hand. But sleight-of-hand's so good that they know that nothing's really can be done, especially when you show this hand empty. You hand them the coin. So another way I like to do this is to bring my hand up and place the coin between my fingertips of my thumb and index finger. Then I shake and have the coin change. I can change it back, and then I turn it round to show the back side of the coin, ask them to hold their hand out, allow the gimmick to fall off, and then hand the coin to them while retaining this in your finger palm. So let me show you again what this looks like from an exposed view. You have the coin and the gimmick held together. You place these at fingertips. You shake and angle backwards to activate the change. And then as you turn your hand around, you allow the gimmick to fall off into your fingertips here, and you turn back around and hand them the coin. So watch, I'll take a copper coin. All I can do is just shake, have it change into silver, and you can go ahead and examine this coin. So a few things to note when working with this coin. The first thing is there's a heads on it, right? So there's it points upwards, so to speak. And what I do is I put a little pen dot behind the change card at the head, at the top end of the head, so I know that when I tilt backwards and forwards, it's always pointing up, and that's the way it changes. If it's on its side, then you have to tilt it from left to right to get it to change. So that's one good point, is to put a little pen dot at the back side of the coin at the top of the head, so you know which way to hold it. Another really interesting thing what I do is that if I'm going to do this, I'll have a copper and silver coin on me, and I'll hold the copper coin and I'll play with it just as I'm talking. I'll do some coin rolls with the copper coin, and I'll let this sort of image just resonate with them and sink in. And then just when I'm about to do the change, I'll switch the copper coin for the silver coin, and I'll place the changeling gimmick onto the silver coin. All this is done without them seeing, so they still think I'm playing with the copper coin, they think I'm just fiddling with it. And then when I bring the changeling coin into view, I do it so that it changes from copper to silver, and this works for me by angling directly back. It'll go from copper to silver. So I bring the changeling coin into view with the silver coin behind it, and now in their mind, because they've seen this copper coin consistently throughout however long you've been playing with it, they don't question the image that they're looking at now. So at the moment where you could be worried that they could think that it's not a coin, because you've conditioned them to think otherwise, or just to almost know otherwise, that there's no heat. So you have this here, and then the change happens in a split second, and they see it visually, but by the time you hand it out, the changeling gimmick's been switched away. So they don't actually get much time to see what the gimmick is. So you bring the silver coin up with the changeling card loaded, copper colour showing. I change it to silver, and then whatever way you want, I switch out the gimmick and hand them the silver coin. And I swear to you, if you perform this, you'll understand. But people will have no idea that there was a gimmick in play, because they don't get time to see it for long enough, and they are preconditioned to see this copper coin. It changes to silver, and then you hand them the silver coin. The changing gimmick is so small that when you palm it, you haven't got to use any muscle strength to keep it there. So you haven't got to be contorted anyway. You can hold it like it'll almost stick to your hands because it's so light. This way, when you hand it out, you can look really, really fair. When you ditch, you can ditch it in any pocket, or you can even drop. This is the cool thing. You can drop this changing gimmick on the floor. So say you swing your hands and let it drop just to the side of you as they're inspecting the coin, and you can just stand on it just until they leave, or until you want to sit down and then retrieve it. But that's really interesting because it doesn't drop on the floor and make a sound like other coins would if you were trying to switch them in or out. So keep that in mind when you're playing with this. Try and allow yourself to think of new ideas, new ways to present it. Could you use it in a copper silver routine? Could you use it somehow in a 3-fly to finish it off? Could you use this to do a coin and glass thing where you switch a copper coin for a silver coin and glass visually? You also get the heads to tail coin in this set too, joined with the copper silver card, and that's really interesting. Just as a thought of it, maybe you could sandwich this coin in with 2 pieces of plexiglass and have someone hold it on their hand, so they look at its tails, and then without them being aware of it, you tilt their hand, and when they look back, it's heads, and when you retrieve it, you switch it out. So the coin's jumping from heads to tails in a closed palm, you know? There's loads of ideas you can come up with yourself, and I think this gives you lots of scope to be creative and use your creative abilities to come up with new ideas and film them and make them look great, or even go out and perform them and make them work really well. So yeah, so just one more thing to recap is just to condition your spectators to see that there's a copper coin if you're going to change to silver, or vice versa. But condition the spectators for one coin to play with it casually, or if it's in the context of a copper coin routine, they'll understand that it's copper the whole way. Then when you load in the gimmick and change it and hand out the indifferent coin, the time period they see the gimmick for will be probably around 2 seconds from, if you think about it, they see this copper coin for ages before, gimmicks loaded, change, handed out. So that's under a second, I'd say, they see the gimmick for. So I never fear about being caught or having any heat on it, because they don't see it for long enough. They definitely see the coin change, and they see it change visually with no sleight of hand. But then they get handed the coin, and I consider it being clean if something's in finger palm, and it's that light that you can drop it or throw it, and even the back doesn't look like a coin, so you can drop it in amongst a pile of cards if they dribble on the table. I consider that being pretty clean. You know, you're not really under any duress to crunch your fingers up or hide it in any way. So the coin change is one of my favourite cards, favourite uses of the changeling principle in the whole volume. And you'll see in the further volumes we've gone and we've used some really interesting concepts based off using it in a 3D sense. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, contact me through the Illusionist forums or through my Instagram and Facebook, which is just Lloyd Barnes or Lloyd T Barnes. You'll find me very easily. Thank you very much for purchasing this, and I hope you enjoy it too. Alright, so this is the iPod headphone penetration. This is quite an easy effect to do. You just need to practice a few times with either a friend that does magic or in a mirror, and you'll be able to understand how this works pretty simply once you have the confidence to do it. So you need your iPod headphone card, which is a card that has an iPod headphone printed widthways, so that when you tilt back and forth, it vanishes and appears. And you need a set of standard iPod headphones, just like this. And the way it works is pretty simple. You're going to take a double from the deck and then switch it out for this card, this double back change card. You're going to display the back of it. Now this could be a signed card for all they know. So change it out, you hold this card up and you borrow the headphones. And then you're going to hold the iPod headphone wires across the width of the middle of the card and put it tight and straight like this, okay? So they can see it just like that. Then what's going to happen now is like a discrepant moment. You're going to come down apparently showing the iPod headphones as they look down this way. But what you're actually doing is tilting the card forward, so clockwise if you're facing this way, forward, and bringing the image into view of the headphone on the gimmick. So as I come down, we'll change shots and you'll get to see what I mean. So you'll begin by
showing this card at the back, no gimmick on the front. You're going to stretch an iPod headphone across the face of the card, like this, right across the middle, widthways. And then you're going to drop down and allow the image on the gimmick side to come into view. We'll take a look at what that looks like right now. So right now you've displayed this upright, and you've come down, and the big motion is going to cover the smaller motion of flipping it from this way round to this way round. And right now this card is parallel with the floor, okay? So all you need to do is make sure that from their point of view, they see the headphone. Now for me, this means angling this card at a 45-degree angle upwards. It's almost like this is flat towards their eyes, not straight down towards the floor, but tilted this way. Okay, so you'll get this, you'll get a good understanding of this from when you practice it with a friend, or if you stand in front of a mirror, equal distance feet apart from where the center of this card is. For instance, if I'm about the width of my hand and thumb away from the card, then you should try and get their body to be about the same as you. That way, whatever you see in a mirror will be exactly what they see on the opposite side, if that makes sense. So, we're at this position. The iPod headphones are held under the card. See? Under. And this is tilted towards. Now, an interesting point here is to point out that you're not holding it from around this way, like that. You're actually holding it on this underside, and this allows the iPod headphones to fall freely and much more easily from beneath the card. So, to recap, you've shown this at the front, and you've dropped down, and the big motions cover the smaller action of getting this into view. Now you want to ask them to cup their hands underneath the iPod headphones, and because they're not paying much attention to what this actually looks like, because they've seen the image for real, they'll be focusing on what to do with their hands. And just when they've got their hands cupped underneath the card like this, you're just going to simply tilt backwards towards yourself and allow those headphones to vanish from the card. And as this happens, underneath you're just going to roll your fingers off and allow headphones to drop. It's really, really easy. So you come from here, you say, could you please cup your hands out in front of me, just underneath the card. Watch as the headphones melt through. Just like that, they melt through. Now as they catch the headphones, you're going to bring this card up to show them, but you're going to bring it up this way. So it melts through, boom. As they catch the headphones, you show them the card's completely normal, and you're flipping it to the non-gimmick side. And at this point, you can re-grab the deck, add it back on, and turn your double over. And that's the full routine. So one more time, just pick these up. You're going to bring this card up into their eyesight like this, so I can get you a good view. And pinch the iPod headphone in front of the card. Then as you come down to waist level, and ask them to cup their hands underneath the playing card, you're simply going to tilt back, make the headphones melt through, and say, look, this card's completely normal. There's no gimmicks. You can grab your deck and then switch it out for their signed card. And that's the basic instructions for how to melt an iPod headphone through a playing card.
So an example of a routine would be this. Any card is taken and can be signed. So let's say they sign it nice and big across the face. Then we'll take that card, we'll run an iPod headphone just across the center of it, just like that. Now at this point you ask them to cup their hands in front of you, just like this. You say, watch. If we melt, just like that, the headphones melt straight through the card. You can see the card's normal, tell them to check out that the headphones are normal. And at this point, they can inspect and keep their signed card. So I'll run you through this routine really quick. You take your iPod headphone card and you place it face up on top of the deck. To get away from this being obvious, you can place it second from top with a normal card there, and you can spread through the deck and show that it's normal, being careful not to expose this. Then when you want to get into performance, you can simply cut that top card into the middle and milk the deck towards yourself so they don't see this. So again, show the deck's normal. Say, actually, could you take a card? So at this point you turn the deck face up, being careful not to expose this back. Then any card selected and can be signed. But what you do here is you take the card, you can show it all around, place it on the bottom of the deck, and then flip everything over, so you're in this position. It's super easy to get a break with this gimmick because it's slightly thicker than the average card. So at this point, you can obtain a break, turn both cards over, and now you're going to take off your gimmick. This deck can be placed at the side. And then just like in Performance, you run the iPod headphone across the card face, just like this. And then as you ask them to cut their hands out and you come down to waist level, you're just gonna flip the card down. So sorry, one thing to note is when you place the headphone wire across the face of the card, you're gonna come and do it with your hands pointing upwards, your fingers pointing upwards like this. And what's nice is that you can see this on this side and you can slightly see through the card, so you know that you're lining up exactly. So when they see this image again, this time, they're seeing the same thing, so nothing's happened to them in their mind, but really you've switched this out for a fake front, which is like a really nice moment. So you come from here to waist level as they cut their hands out, and they should see this. Now the camera's a natural distance away from me, so I'm not quite sure what you're seeing there, but after practicing at home and when you perform with someone else, you'll be able to judge exactly where the center point between you both is even. And this is where practicing the mirror comes in handy. So you're at this point, and they can hopefully see the headphone on the playing card. Then all you do is you tilt the card back. So I aim it at like 45 degrees, which is like this. So aim it towards them. You tilt the headphone card back, so it's parallel, and so the headphone vanishes, so back. And at the same time, you drop these headphones into their hand. Now, two things are going on in their mind. You've seen this card 1,000 times by now at this point, so you're not going to be fooled by this. You probably may not even have the confidence to perform it at first, but to them, what they're really seeing is the headphones melt through this card, and then they catch them and they physically feel them in their hand. So these two sort of inputs of information are confusing their brain. So they see the headphone melt through, they catch it, and before they've had time to think, the effect's almost over, but you can bring this card up casually to show it and display that it's not gimmicked. Then you pick up the rest of the deck and hand their card out using a double. So here's the thing. You take it back, obtaining a break under one card, their original signed card. You place this showing the normal side and turn the double over. Now you'll have this card right here showing if you just display. So what I do is just either have them hold the hand out and drop it into their hand and kill my wrist down, or just pull my wrist towards myself and turn it down. And what looks good here is that sometimes when people switch things, that it doesn't come at the right time, but naturally you just pick the deck back up and you could just go back into another effect, right? So that's my motivation, so I go into something else. So at this point, all I do to clean up is very casually, as they're inspecting both cards when you have no heat whatsoever, I just flip this over and this blends in with the rest of the deck. And I go straight into my next effect and I'm clean, and it's giving me a reason to pick the cards back up. So I know this effect is really, really daunting to try first of all, and you do have to get your angles right with this one more so than some of the other cards. But it's one of these effects that you have to do it once, and then once you get the reaction, you'll understand why we included it in the set. It is an experimental card, but it also, I think, it shows that what is possible and gives you a nice insight to what we have coming out in the next volume of these effects. All I can say is practice it, get your angles down right, and the thing is, you don't need to get your angles exact. This isn't like you need to get it direct on. As long as you know they can sort of see the white line on that card, they're not checking for it, because from the moment it comes from up top to waistline, you ask them to hold their hands out at the same time. As long as you know they can see the white of that card slightly, you only have to be slightly in range of where your tilting motion needs to be for it to be showing the white line and not showing the white line, and then drop in for it to actually work. This is one of those things that you'll see if you can experiment on it with a friend, a magic friend preferably, you'll get it straight away. Especially if they haven't seen the card, and trust me, it'll fool them. So this is a really sort of gutsy one, I'd say, to perform if you aren't confident. Those of you who are confident and do like coin under watches, coin on shoulder will know that you'll be able to pull this off with ease. But it is quite daunting not knowing if they can see it or not. But practice, stand in front of a mirror, make sure the distance between you and the mirror would be the same as the distance between you and a spectator, or half that of the distance between you and a spectator. Just get your angles right, and then just remember that they're only seeing that card with the apparent headphone on it for 2 to 3 seconds, because from here they're seeing it. As you drop, then it's switching over. So you say, cut your hands out in front of you, so they're thinking about something else. So here, hold your hands out in front of you, watch. So that's about 2 seconds from the point of them seeing it to it melting through. So in their mind, they haven't got time to register it was anything else. They're seeing this visual, they're seeing it on the card. There's quite a lot of white on a card anyway, so they're not gonna, it's not gonna be so distinct as if it was on like a black background or something. I'm very, very confident with this effect. I think if you do it a few times, I think you will be as well, but it is something you just need to go out and perform. But if you have any questions, please get in touch through the Illusionist forums, or through my Facebook page, my emails, my Instagram, any way you like. Thanks.
Madison, Lloyd Barnes, and in this video we're going to teach you, or Lloyd's going to teach you this change card. This is the Jumping Angels.
Jumping Angels.
How does it work?
Cool.
How do you do that?
Well, I'll show you a quick run through of a performance of it.
Sure.
Alright, cool. So this trick's really cool. All you need is the gimmick on top, and I'll show you a quick performance, and you can see exactly what's going on. So you need a reg deck, and you show all the cards different, and you just have them pull any card out. Let's say the 8 of hearts. And all you're going to do is this: you can ask them to sign their name on the face of the 8, and they can check it out. You say, "Watch, it's really interesting that you chose the 8 because the 8's sort of a mischievous card, and not the actual 8 itself. That'd be silly, but the angels on the back are mischievous. Look, if you come down, you can actually see they like to jump back and forth." Off spot to spot, which is kind of fun, If you hold it, you give them a little hit them, and
That's cool. Yeah.
And it'll make them behave, and they can keep the card.
I really love how of all the change cards, like the idea of you give it to them after, like the red blue one, and this is. I felt like you were giving me the, not to kind of say that the spectators will think that they're being handed a gimmick, but I thought you were giving me the gimmick. Yeah. So I was like straight away turned it on.
It is confusing.
Did you really just give me that?
Because they're always seeing their card with the signature on it, or at least the face, and the back does the magic.
Yeah.
But I think the signature is always a key element.
Oh yeah.
I don't think signing things is ever important.
Sure.
But when it comes to something like this, because they see this card change, and so they go for the signature to make sure that it's theirs. And I always throw in at the end, and you don't need to, but I always throw in that you can keep it, because it makes them put the focus on this.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does. Well, I kind of know why. When you say they can keep it, it stops them from going back to the deck, because it's like, oh, this is mine now, and then they're like, and then they're more in their focus on this, and that time you can clean up. But I'll run you through how this works, and also why this works. So again, you just grab a red deck of bikes, or any red deck you want. You can even use mandolins, people won't even notice. And you have your change gimmick on top face down, so you're clean. You can spread the deck, you can do whatever you want. And you just get a card chosen and signed. Okay, so you just get a red card chosen and signed. And you're going to place this card face up on top of the deck. Now, as far as we are, there's nothing untoward, this is completely normal. And from here it's going to look completely normal again, aside from the magic. Because these change gimmicks are slightly thicker, you can get a double really easy. So you get a double with your gimmick and the check and the chosen card. And all you're going to do is pick it up at each end and pinch the corner. And this allows you to come up and sort of display a double without splitting it, right? I use my middle finger at the bottom to square, and my thumb at the side. But whatever way you like to do it, you may want to hold it at the sides.
if you can get away with doing it like that. It's basically, if you can do a double, you probably know how to handle a double as it is, and just practice with it. But because these change cards are kind of plastic coated, they stick a little easier, so they won't split like a normal card will. So that's quite nice. It sort of aids you in the change. So we'll get into position. So we're here. We got the chosen card and the jumping angel gimmick. You're going to bring the card up so they can see the signature, and you talk about how the angels misbehave and they jump around. And all you do is you come into view, is you just start tilting it back and forth so they can see these angels really starting to play around and go back and forth. And you do it for like a second or two. I wouldn't let it linger. I just say they just like to play around. Just sort of, you want to just sort of make them rethink what they just seen.
Yeah.
Just enough so that they can question it. But they don't want them to examine it with their mind, if that makes sense. You don't want them to really delve into what they're seeing. You want them just to sort of question what they're seeing, if that makes sense. So yeah, you come up, we display them jumping back and forth, almost like in a mischievous way. So you kind of want to give it a play. And then to clean up, it's so simple. You just turn your double over and give them their card back.
And as with kind of all the change cards as well, like you wouldn't worry about cleaning this up again. You know,
I wouldn't,
just leave it there.
because the thing is, they don't know what double backers are.
Yeah.
So even if they do think this card is going on top of the deck, they would expect this to be a face.
Yeah.
So even when this card goes on top of the deck from the change, and then they see this normal bike, there's nothing happening. They can even if they're looking at this and trying to get a sneaky glance, nothing happens. And then the heat goes back onto this card, because this is where all your framing is. When you're holding it, you're not holding it on top. You're framed here, so that they remember this image and remember this card being a single item.
And not that you have to kind of lead people away from kind of the method, but you could. I mean, this card. This is a free selection, right? Yeah. But I mean, what you could do, just as kind of a, just to keep the heat away from the deck. Not that the heat would be there. This is something that probably I would do. Is because the angels were jumping backwards and forwards. That's where they're going to look when they get this card. They're going to look straight there, and when they see there's nothing there. I'm imagining if I saw this, as a spectator, I'd look at the next place, the deck. But if you're worried about that, a good idea might be to somehow kind of affect them angels, like maybe even a scratch or something, or a little line around, so that when they look at it, they think they've seen something and they're looking closer.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It must have something to do. I did see a scratch on the back.
Yeah, maybe get like a little scalpel and put a nick in the card.
And then when they take this away, they say, look, what happened is these angels jumped, and I think it's got something to do with this. Not that you need to, take any.
I mean, if you really wanted to sell the idea, you could just say, this is my special card, and begin with this in cop. And as you get them to sign it and cap the pen, you can reload ink from cop.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do your change, and then say back to hold their hand out and hand them the card back.
Yeah.
And because they never assume there's another card in play, if you handle it well, if you'd like Daniel, and you can handle the cop better than anything, then this is going to be so much more fun. You can really elevate it to the next level, because for all they believe, there's just this one ever card, and it never leaves their sight.
Yeah.
So that's what, if you are worried about heat and you'd like to handle cards a bit better, you can go for that option. But I love this thing of nicking one or doing something to it, because you're leading them down down a path.
I mean, it does come with problems, because then that has to be a force card. Whereas one of the good things about this is it can be any playing card.
Well, one thing I've done, which sometimes I do, depending on how I'm feeling, is I took a red bicycle card, and just with a red Sharpie. This is really quick, but if you take your time and colour one of the angels, you can just colour it in red. So it doesn't cost anything but a red Sharpie. And so after you've done the effect, say maybe this is second from top, and they're going to be examining this. There's no heat whatsoever. You could slip this card to the top, and then as they're talking, if this was a duplicate, so say this is another 8 of hearts, you can do and it wasn't signed, you could do a top change and display this is now red. It's just an icon.
Clever, yeah, and it's another way of, there's nothing to look for now because it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what.
Exactly. So even if The other way to do it is like this, which I should have explained, is that you force this card. So say you force this card, the 7, and they're seeing these all the time, and you can cover it with your thumb. They can sign their name on this card. Then you can come up and do the effect where they jump back and forth. You can hand it out, and this time 1 has remained. You know?
Yeah, it's really good.
So then they have nowhere to go.
Yeah, I really like that. And there's tons of ways of mess. I was messing around just for myself, and I thought this idea of, not with this card, but it would work. It would work, you know. I can't remember whose this idea is, but the idea of, you know, you show it like this, and then you drop it to the table.
Oh man, yeah, like a Marlowe drop change.
Yeah.
And then
So
Mike Hatkins has the harbour change.
That's it, yeah, and Danny Garcia did something similar to that as well. But yeah, so that you can just have one card, and then end with one card.
So you can throw it across the table.
There's tons of like gambling moves and sleights that could allow you to do these things with one hand, but. I think, I mean, the way that you teach it and the way that you're doing it, you don't need to overthink. I'm always overthinking because of sleight of hand.
If you don't I think a lesson in magic is always to overthink, because it's like the guy who created the TV. He created it, John Ligabee, from watching somebody mow the grass on a field, right? And he was just thinking about that over and over, and he got this crazy conclusion, and he had this brilliant idea. So I think it's always good, apply this to all your magic, to overthink, because you'll end up somewhere which nobody's gone from, when it could lead to some of the best creations you've ever worked on. So if you are, I mean, that's just what I think, is that you should always push your ideas as far as they can go.
Yeah. As for performing, like with this card though, I think what I'm trying to say is, I'm always trying to make things difficult because I love sleight of hand, but you don't need to like make it any more difficult than the way that Lloyd's taught you how to perform it, you know, because the magic is what they see on the card rather than what, you know, the moves that you're doing that no one's going to see anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just run through now really quickly what you've seen in the trailer, and I'll talk about the face-up handling. And this is just basically really simple. If you were you would get to the point where you have a chosen card face up on top of the gimmick, and instead of bringing it up and then trying to act, they're going to see this jumping around, right? So you're going to need to cover it as you come up to activate the change. And it's simple. You keep a break above the 2 cards. You bring it to chest height, and then you move your hand out of the way, and you just get them to jump back and forth. And then as you come back down to the deck, you can either drop this on top and then hand it out, or I like to just split it over and hand it out, and a big motion will cover that small motion.
I like that, yeah.
And so that's just one way you can do it, so it's face up. Brad Christian actually likes to, with these cards, he likes to use his hand as sort of a cover to sort of make them think the method may be here. So when it changes back and forth, they're looking at your hand, they don't quite know where the method is, and they kind of disguise what you do, because this can almost be too clean.
Yeah.
Can almost be too perfect of a change, and sometimes Brad thinks the cover, I'm inclined to agree with him, the cover can really make it look magical instead of, you know, who's it that said that perfection, the perfection is in the imperfection?
A
mentalist suggested it, I think, and I do know the name, I can't think of it, but the idea that if you do like a mentalism effect, to miss a few, to sell the idea.
Sure,
and it sort of applies to sleight of hand, that because this is so clean, that if you actually put a sleight of hand look and move over it, then they could really get it.
So that's pretty much the Jumping Angels card. I hope you enjoy this effect. I hope you go out and I hope you use it to fry people really badly. This absolutely slays magicians. So practice it, get your angles down. You know, there's so many people are afraid of angles, but there's so many great effects out there that do have the angle issues. And I think if you spend a time practicing on them and you overcome them, you can use this to your advantage to become a really good magician and do really good effects. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through the Illusionist forums, through my Facebook or through my Instagram. And also, if you have any ideas, feel free to share them with us. We love seeing new ways of this, to see how this is presented. And if you want to perform them on YouTube or go off and perform them with your friends and film it and send them in, we'd love to see that too. So thank you for checking out the Jumping Angels on this Changeling Volume 1 project. My name's Lloyd Barnes, and I'll see you soon.
I'm Daniel Madison here with Lloyd Barnes. Lloyd's going to teach you the change for this card, the red to blue card. He's also going to teach it to me at the same time. And we're going to go over some notes on how you handle it and things you can do with it and different ways of handling. It's Lloyd's idea, so over to Lloyd.
Cheers. All right, let's get into it. Cool. So yeah, so you've had the cards for a long time. You've played with them, but this is the first time you're going to see the way I perform change.
Yeah.
So we'll run through a basic performance of change first.
So this is the red blue.
This is the red. This is the red to blue card. This is the basic way of performing it, the most practical way, because if you're watching this, you may have guessed the method. So this is the way you can really go out and perform this 100 times in a row and never get caught. And it's actually really simple. So I'll just perform it to you. For the cameras, and then we'll just get into it. It's really simple. So, all right. So this is the basic performance of the red to blue change card. You've got a normal deck of cards. You can see they're all different, right?
Yeah.
All I want you to do is just say stop wherever you like.
Okay. Stop.
This card.
Yeah.
Happy with this?
Sure.
So this is your card, the 8 of hearts. If you've got a pen, you can sign it.
Okay.
But since we don't, and this is for the camera, this can genuinely be signed. But all you're going to do is say, watch, this says, it's really weird, because all the other cards in the deck are blue, except for the one you chose. It likes to sort of mess around and show us something weird. As you come down, you can show that 8 actually begins to change colour and stand out from the rest. And if you give it to them, they can shake it back and forth, and it'll change.
Change back. Wow.
It'll change to red.
So the moment's kind of, it's such good timing where you don't expect to see it because you think you're going to do something different with the 8. But that kind of seeing the back of it's kind of really nice.
Yeah.
It's a very natural way of. So what's your handling of it?
So the handling is basically to have a blue deck of bikes and a red backed 8 with your gimmick face down on top so they can't see it changing. And then this 8's placed into the centre of the deck, and you can force it however you want as long as you don't flash the back. So in this case we just did a dribble force, so getting a break above the 8. We dribble down and show that this is the chosen card. So this comes out, you don't flash the back, and you turn the deck over. You can either place it down on the table without knocking it, or you can just flip it over in your hands, either way. But all you do is then place the 8 on top of the deck. And because these change cards are slightly thicker, you'll be able to grab a double really, really easy.
Yeah.
If you grab a double, and you explain how the 8 likes to stand out from the rest, and it was funny that you chose the 8 because it's different from every other card. And at this point, you're going to bring it up sort of in line with your chest, so horizontal to the floor. And as you come down, you're going to tilt the card just back and forth a few times, and they'll see those colours changing back and forth. And what's really nice about this is that you haven't got to be exact whatsoever. The intention is that they want to see it blur between red and blue. So the angle issues are invisible. You don't have any angle issues.
Yeah.
So they see it change back and forth a few times, and don't forget this is a double. And then all you do to clean up is turn it on top of the deck and display the face. Hand it to them, and this is hidden because it's a double backer, and then they can see the red back.
Sure, yeah. So what I love about this is, you know, when I first saw that card, this change card, I thought, you know, because I saw it without any instruction or any kind of knowledge of what you were going to do with it. I thought it was just going to be a, you know, red to blue thing. But I really love the idea of seeing it change, you know, back and forward slowly, because it's like you've got. Although people might worry when you get these about angles and stuff, this is the perfect one to not really care about, you know, what colour they're seeing, because as long as it's moving, they're seeing that kind of change. It's really, really nice.
Exactly, and so any worries about angles completely dispelled, because the idea is that they see it going back and forth.
Yeah, and also like obviously you're going to force it however you want, as long as you end up in that position. I'm guessing, like, as long as they end up in that position where no one sees the back of this. But the force that you do, like the face up kind of dribble thing, is probably the fairest way of any force, to be honest, where the card's seen, doesn't matter if it's seen by you or not.
Exactly.
Because then it kind of feels so free.
A few things I like to do is that I put this 8 in the centre of the deck so I can just spread to it, but as I'm talking, I'll just casually let this blue card fall, so they just know it's a blue deck. I don't need to spread the whole deck and show, I just be casual with it. And then I say they're all different, and at this point I can grab a break above the 8.
So they've seen all the backs, they can see all the backs if they want, and then they dribble, they see all the faces, so it's just a normal deck as far as they're concerned, and then you go ahead and bring it out.
Do you worry about like a cleanup afterwards? You know, once you've finished and they've got the 8 and that card's on top now, do you worry about that, or do people ever ask to check?
Not at all, because if you think about it from their line of sight, they've chose the card, they've signed it, then it comes up here, they never take their eyes off it, they see it come down, they see it change, and then all you're doing is that to them you're just showing the face straight away. And if anyone does a double lift for an ambitious card, you know you never get heat on the top card. So I can safely say you never get any heat on it.
All the heat's going to be right there on that card, isn't it?
Exactly. And then the second way I perform it, which it leads nicely in, is I use Bill Goodwin's version of the paintbrush change, which is to sort of rotate it as you hand it out. And what's nice about this is that the card never gets laid back on top of the deck, so they just see the card change and then go out, and I'll just perform it really quick. But again, you start here, you come down, you make the card change back and forth a few times for them, and you just hand it out like this.
Right.
So maybe that was messy on camera, but in the real world, you can just say to them, hold your hand out, and it'll be cleaned up. So in their mind, you've just done this, changed it, and just given it to them, and it doesn't really get any cleaner than that.
Yeah. So one of the I know you shouldn't worry about cleanups, just like we were just saying, but there's a move I do called I've called it a few things, like the turnover change. But if you can actually you can clean up the change card by doing a card switch, and because you're in perfect position for it once you've shown the back and show the face. I can't do the handling like you can, but once you've shown the face and you see the back again, when you turn it face up, you kind of got it on a tilt, like a tent kind of thing. You're holding it here, and as you turn it face up over the edge of the deck, your fingers just literally pull that card underneath as this card goes down. So you'll see the back, and then it just looks like this. So now that this card's cleaned up to the bottom, and I'm the kind of person I love sleight-of-hand, so I'd probably get it straight down this top to my pocket.
Yeah, be cheeky and hand down the deck.
Then do 2 deck switches. Yeah.
You can switch in more.
But yeah, that's just a thought. That's probably where I would go. But I think when people are playing around with it,
because then no heat on the top of the deck whatsoever.
Yeah. But when you're playing around with it, I'm sure you'll come up with your own kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's also a few other ways to do this as well. So you get to the same position with a chosen card. It's on top with this change card here. And another way, which is easier than doing the double and pinching it, because some of you may split the double if you're not used to holding cards. It's just you can just turn the card face over and bring the deck up to yourself at the same time, and change it like this. So you'll say, this is your card, you've signed your name on it, and then you can bring it down and just in your hands to angle it back and forth. So they can see it changing back and forth a few times. And if you're not like me, you keep the break, so you keep your break, and then you can just turn it back over and hand it to them. So that's a simple, really simple handling again. So that's it basically covers everyone. As long as you can do a double lift, you're good to go. You can even start with this card and have them sign it if you can't force a card. It's really that easy. And just go from there.
When you were actually showing it to me then, and you said you can sign it if you want, I thought, well, I don't want to sign the change card. Because I was thinking, that's the change card. But what's brilliant about it is that's just a selected card.
It's just a selected card.
Yeah.
So now I'll just talk to you about how to do it upright, like you've seen in the trailer too.
Yeah.
So a really good friend of mine, Rory Adams, has had a great idea for practicing this, because the general rule is that you hold it straight up and then slightly forward a bit. This camera's lower, so it's not like eyesight, so it may be off. But the general rule is that you hold it straight up and forward, and then you can get it to change. And if you practice in the mirror, you'll get it right, and you'll know it. But a really great idea for practice by Rory Adams is if you get 2 change cards, you put them back to back, like this. What you see at the back is what they see at the front. So you should be seeing it going almost perfect. I mean, the camera's lower than the human eye, but if it was at the right, if you were at head height, and you held 2 back to back like this, you can practice getting it perfect.
That's really good, yeah.
Which is really cool, because then you know what they see. You can even keep this on top of the deck, and then, because when you ditch it, it'll just stay there, you know. So that's a good idea. But
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So you know, as for practicing getting the angles right, other than, you know, as an alternative to doing that, would you say the best way is the obvious way, which is in the mirror?
Practice in the mirror, you'll get a feel for it. It's like if any of you can drive a car, you know that when you first put your foot on the accelerator, you want to put it as hard to the floor as you can, but you realise that you've only actually got to move the width of a coin or 2 coins to sort of up your speed or control your clutch. And it's the same with this. At first you're going to want to change and you'll be going, and it's just going to look crazy, but it's actually it's more like I usually use my middle finger just to rock it back slightly.
Right.
And you'll get used to it in the mirror. So here's the thing, if you want to perform the change like you've probably seen in the trailer, which is the best and nicest way to do it visually, a clean change and hand it out, you can totally do that, and here's how you get into it. You force your card with your gimmick face down on top, and all you're going to do is you're going to get a double. You're going to bring the deck up so it's horizontal, right, you know, so from the side it's this angle. And what this does is it stops it from being seen changing as it comes up to position, right? So from it looks good. You should look, you know, you can't see anything.
Yeah,
and it's there. It's just one colour.
Yeah.
So you bring it up to here, and this is a double. You pull this over, and they should be seeing one colour now. If you've practiced in the mirror, you'll know that you should be pretty much dead on the right colour. And it doesn't matter if it's not exact, because you're going to do the change almost straight away. So you're going to come straight up, pull this over, and then just begin to change it back and forth a few times. And then as you come down, you can just lay this back on top of the deck and give it away. And if you want to be a bit more advanced, you can, as you come down, you can just spread over.
Yeah,
okay, so what you're doing is just as you come down, you're just spreading that back on top of the deck. It's really, really easy. But again, just to do it like you see on the screen, you can just bring the deck up, and this hides the change happening. You bring it up, you change the card back and forth. You can just hand it out to them, and it's signed. And of course, you do we're in a confined space, but you do a big motion down and hand the card out. They don't see anything because the big motion covers the smaller motion.
Yeah.
Another thing to note is that depending on whether it's widthways up this way or this way, the card will change at a different angle or possibly different colour depending on what card you've chosen. And so when you're practicing the mirror and you find the angle which works best for you, I haven't done it because I do a different type of change. I do the face down, but all you can do is if you find which way up it is just to put a pencil dot in the top corner or somewhere along here where they won't see it on this card, because then you know if you kind of come up, you may need to adjust it this way, so you can just do that undercover, and then you'll know which is the best angle for the change. So
that's kind of everything that we can really talk about with this card. You might come up with some ideas yourself. You will have seen on the website on Illusionist that there are more of these cards. So go ahead and check them out. If you like this one, check out the other ones. You'll see us explaining, or you see Lloyd explaining how they work too. So that is the red to blue change card.